Greetings and welcome to this week's COVID Chats and Facts, sponsored by the UAMS Division for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. As always, I'm your host, Amber Nicole, your favorite diversity specialist. And today, we are going to talk about education, ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, and going back to school during a pandemic. We have two LRSD certified teachers to share with us today. Katina White, who is also the 2020 Forest Heights Teacher of the Year, as well as the 2017 Sherwood Educator of the Year, and Miss Whitney Bordelon, who is the 2018 Forest Heights STEM Academy Teacher of the Year. And together and separate, they are amazing educators. They are a dynamic duo. They are women of STEM, and I am so excited to share today with them. So thank you for joining us. This is Friday, July 31st, and we hope that you stay and hear all of this fun conversation today. Thank you so much for being here with us today for this week's edition of COVID Chats and Facts. I am so excited for our listeners to hear from both of you. So before we get started, will you please, even though we know that you have received all types of awards, we know that you are both so amazing, share a little bit about yourself, maybe something we don't know, and then your favorite part of being an educator. Katina?
My name is Katina White. I originally born and raised in Southwest Little Rock, and I currently reside there. Went to Watson Elementary, Mapleville Middle School, and J.A. Fair High School. So I am a product of the Little Rock School District, which I am proud about. What do I love about being an educator? One of the best things is seeing the look of aha moment in a child's face. One of the best feelings ever. One of the best feelings when they finally get a concept that they weren't able to get, and then it finally hits them. That's like the best moment as an educator for me.
Thank you. Whitney, would you please share with us just a little bit about your background and your favorite part of being an educator?
Of course. I am also a product of the Little Rock School District. I went to Booker Arts Magnet and Horace Mann Science Magnet, and then I went to Central High. I was inspired by my 9th grade physical science teacher, Mr. Wendell Redman, and he's the one who really inspired me to go into science. I really love science, and I love the opportunity that I get to share what I love with students, and hopefully see that spark with them so that maybe I'm inspiring them into a life of science as well.
I love it. So let's jump right into this conversation. We ended last school year pretty abruptly because there was a global pandemic. I don't know if you guys have ever been through one of those things before, but it was definitely new for me. And now we're getting ready to start school for the fall. And there are lots of questions, even for parents like me, who are trying to figure out the best way to go about, making decisions for their children this fall. As an educator, the amazing educators that you are, if I'm one of the parents struggling between whether I physically send my child to school or homeschooling and doing the online virtual options, when I know being a homeschool parent did not work out well for me February, March, April, what is your advice to those parents? What should we know?
Well, I think the difference between last school year and this school year is our preparation. So we were all kind of blindsided by staying at home for so long. We were working to get those lessons done, to try and communicate with the parents, to try and communicate with the students and check up on everybody while we were learning things on the fly. But I think that we have had time to prepare, we've had time to meet, we've had time to plan. And I think that as teachers, this is something that we are going to figure out a way to teach your students so that they learn. And I think that that's one of the things we do best is to teach. And so I think working with us on these online platforms, it's going to be a lot easier this time around, just because I think we have a little bit of experience under our belt and we have some new ideas. So trying to just be open and not always think about, oh, I really didn't like last time because of this or this or this. We really didn't like it either because it really was stifling. And we didn't get to see our kids, and we didn't get to actually get to experience the learning with them. But we have some new ideas this time around, and I think it's going to be pretty good.
Ms. White, Katina?
I would piggyback off what Ms. Borland stated, and also understanding that I understand that you're making the best choice for you and your family. Even with the online, it's imperative to build a relationship with that teacher. To build a relationship. So if you are you say I didn't understand third grade level work. Well, if you have a relationship with that teacher, and communicating with a teacher effectively and more often, then that will assist you a whole lot with this online experience. And also, it's a different experience now where we're planning. We get an opportunity as educators to actually plan the lessons we want. We have time, whereas we're not in the middle of a pandemic and we don't know what to do. We kind of have a plan now where we're able to try to figure it out just a little bit more than the opportunities that we had back in the spring. So
I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that that's accurate about building relationships, because if I could not text you two, I don't know if my 8th grader would still be here. One of us would not have made it through that virtual 9 weeks without having your numbers in my cell phone.
Yeah, those relationships really matter. That teacher parent, and that's my, one of my educational philosophies, that relationships are the foundation for everything. So building that relationship with that teacher is imperative.
Because I treat it like another parent. When he would come to me, I'm like, well, what did Ms. White say? I'm just, go see what Mama said, and then come back and and we'll do whatever she said after that. So what do you have to say to parents who maybe are shy or leery because they haven't had successful relationships with parents? I know that that's something that you guys are really intentional about, but what about parents who have not had that experience? How would you advise them to begin cultivating a relationship with teachers?
Well, I think that we as teachers start every year fresh. And I would just advise the parents to do the same. You have a brand new team of teachers, and just go in with an open mind. Go ahead and send an email and just say, hey, this is my child. Here's something interesting about them, or here are some needs that I've found, or here are some things that I'm nervous about. And then you can get our perspective just right off the bat. And I am 100% sure that teachers would really appreciate that.
Now,
same thing.
LRSD, prior to the pandemic, was already in a bit of unrest. We were advocating for our teachers when it came to the teachers union. We were asking for equitable distribution of district funds, all of these things prior to, when we were already acknowledging that there were disparities and inequities in access to, better education, resources, and things of that nature. The pandemic then exacerbated those same problems when it came to those populations that are most vulnerable, the Black, the brown, and the poor. For parents who are concerned, listen, I have no idea what the heck happened last 9 weeks. I know they turned something in. I'm just gonna go with the fact that they probably turned it in because the school didn't email me and say they didn't, but I don't know what they've learned. Can my child catch up? What advice do you have for those parents that are concerned about maybe their child was already behind when they were in school already, and this is gonna be overwhelming for them? What is your advice to those parents that are concerned about that?
What I would say is everybody starting the school year out is already behind. And it's across the board. It's from kindergarten to 12th grade. So it would be not to worry so much about if they're behind. We're, as educators, we're taught how to fill in the gaps. And so that would be what you would want and you want from the educators at your school to try to fill in those gaps. Everybody is behind. So it's not, and we all educators are dealing with the same thing. We're dealing with students that are coming in that are there's going to be gaps from when they're February to March. And so I wouldn't necessarily stress as much about my child being behind, not knowing if they missed some content, because we're taught as educators on how to fill in those gaps.
I would echo that and just say this is what we do. I mean, this is why we fill in those gaps. Yeah, that's all right. We have this, but we also, I would like to say something about the bringing to the surface or to the light some of these inequities. I think it's great that we can have these conversations, and being there for our students, especially as social and emotional support as well. I think that that's one thing that our team did really well in the spring semester, was we were checking on our students, because it was scary. It was a scary time. There was a lot of stuff that we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't have answers, but we just wanted to make sure that our students were okay. So we wanted to make sure that they not only had the resources that they had to learn, but that they were feeling okay emotionally. And that's another thing that teachers do. We check in with our kids and make sure they're okay. And so that's one thing we will do, because that is a priority for us.
Yeah, I know this show not about me, but I'm gonna miss y'all so much this year. Now that my child has gone to a different school, can I make him stay back? Can I make him have another year with? Okay, so he's okay. Well, what advice do you all have for parents in regards to mitigating or managing their expectations of the fall, their expectations of the platforms, the virtual platforms, and the expectation of the student, of their child, when it comes to this new way that we're going to, have school this fall?
I think that one of the things we need to be is realistic. This is a new platform. There are going to be questions. There are going to be sometimes that the students aren't going to know exactly what to do, and that's okay, because we're all learning, and we're all learning together. I know that Ms. White can talk more about the Schoology app, because I know she's been to more training than I have, but I like it. It's a really good platform. I think it's going to be user-friendly, similar to a Google Classroom format, which is what our kids have been using. But I also think
is that what they used? I had no idea.
Yes, Google Classroom. Also, the students it's going to be, I think, more intuitive. And so, but please keep those lines of communication open, because if there's a question early on, that's something we need to know right away, so that we can fix that, or maybe even adjust what we're doing to meet the needs of the students.
Okay. Ms. White?
Same thing. It's the expectation of knowing that everybody is experiencing a learning curve. That's from district, that's from the administrators, that's from the educators, the students, parents. We're all having a learning curve, learning a new LMS system. And then, being really realistic about what this year is going to look like, and being allowing grace.
Okay, yeah.
To each other, because that's what we've never been in a pandemic before. We've never had to do blended learning before. You've never had to try to figure out how your child is going to learn online. That's some things that we're all learning. You've never used Schoology before. So it's a big learning curve for everybody. So the expectations should be just to allow grace with each other. And we're gonna make it. We're gonna be fine.
I know we're not even halfway through this conversation, and I feel a little bit better about the fall already, so I feel that's a good thing. When we're talking about the new platform, we're saying it's going to be user-friendly, and it's Schoology. Is that what you say? Is there any other information that you can give us about it? Is there something as a parent that I can do before school starts to kind of become familiar, or, to kind of just be able to recognize even the interface of the program, or what would you recommend to us, to those
Well, I know
parents
that
who are not great at the homeschooling and virtual aspect of schooling?
there are some videos that you can watch, some training videos that I know that LRSD has put on their website. But you could also just Google some videos. You wouldn't need to know all of the educator tricks, but I can guarantee you there's some parent videos on YouTube that you can find about Schoology. It is very intuitive, and the kids are going to pick it up really quickly.
And what about maybe resources as we get ready to start school back? And I know that I did not have my child doing the summer reading that they should have done, or, just a little bit, just any work at all. What are some maybe online platforms that you would recommend to kind of get prepared for the student to get prepared for school up until we start, this new platform and such?
Well, for me, I wouldn't necessarily say it's an online platform. I would just start getting my kids to read nightly. As any educator will let you know, and I'm an engineering teacher, so the reading is going to be fundamental, because we're going to upload articles, we'll upload things that they need to read from their textbook. Just get them back in the habit of reading nightly. So that's not necessarily an online platform, but that's my strategy. Just get in the habit of reading.
And you mean like material, and not like the PlayStation screen, like
not like the PlayStation. They
okay.
a book.
Okay.
A book.
Okay.
So a book.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I would have to say I agree with Ms. White 100%, because reading is going to help you with English, it's going to help you with science, it's going to help you with engineering, it's going to help you with math, because it's reasoning. You're reasoning while you're reading, and that's what we need. Fiction, nonfiction, anything. As a science teacher, I'm pretty, partial to National Geographic articles online. So you just hit the Nat Geo and check out some of their articles. But really, if it's something interesting, then the student will pick it up, and they're making their brain so happy.
So I think that's one thing that I'd like to highlight. I think it's fascinating that you are both women in STEM. I mean, I have worked with you both, so knowing how your sciencey, educational, engineering, like all of this plays a part, and how much you love being an educator, what is, I guess, something that you would recommend to parents? Like, I would love for my child to be into STEM. Like, how would you, how do I coax my child into piquing their interest in STEM activities or concepts?
I think for me, it's the relevance. If it's relevant to their life, they're going to be more interested. So if you can connect STEM to their world, and I'm not just saying, I really like playing video games, so here's how to code. No, I mean, like looking at the world around you and seeing just how relevant environmental impact is. And so we really should read some information about decisions that we make about the environment, or who we vote for actually impacts the environment in the long run. So how they can actually see the connections between science in their own world. And then they can figure out how they can make that impact. And then they really are being a scientist.
Oftentimes, when it comes to pedagogy or other types of curriculum or curriculum design, there are buzzwords. Nowadays, all I hear about is community science or community scientists. Will you define what in the world is community science and or community scientist? And do I want to be one? Do I want my child to be one? What is it?
Well, to me, when I'm looking at community science, it is more so community is bringing the science to the scientists. So it is, what issues do we have in our community that scientists can solve? It is more so, a lot of times when scientists, they write in journals and all of that, and it stays in the journals, and the community stakeholders they can't even understand journals, interpret the journals, apply the science within their community. They don't even know where it fits into their world. Well, when I'm talking community signs, we're bringing all stakeholders. And when I bring it to my students, I'm bringing in, these are the science concepts are, if you see a problem in your community, how can science help solve that? How can you use the scientific principles that we use, that we discuss in class, the engineering principles that we discuss in class, and how can you take that and solve issues within your community? It can be clean water, it can be food deserts, it could be community gardens, or even talking about how health disparities are in different communities based on the ability to even walk in your community, sidewalks. So it's things like that. Bringing the community is bringing the science to the scientists, and that's solving it. That's my interpretation.
First, as a shameless plug, I'm going to use now to celebrate, because I heard through the grapevine that you all facilitated and excellently executed a virtual STEM camp at UAMS in the Division for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion this summer. In fact, I heard that they were called the Junior STEM Academy and the Senior STEM Academy. Rumor also has it that normally this camp is done on site at UAMS, and it is a completely problem-based curriculum, and you guys took it completely virtual this year. Is that correct so far? So I want to make sure I have my facts correct. Is that correct so far?
Yes, that sounds perfect.
So you all kind of got a peek into what the fall would be like, except with much more fun curriculum, because you're awesome. But what advice maybe would you give your colleagues based off of your experience, your virtual experience with your kids this summer? What advice would you give your colleagues that are maybe as apprehensive as the parents about what's going to go on this fall?
I think the monitor and adjust is probably the best. It was really neat to see how the students interacted with myself and with each other, but to kind of take some cues from them and then see what really grabbed their attention, to be able to use that as a learning tool. I think that that's something that teachers just across the board should be doing anyway, but especially digitally, it's hard to get some feedback sometimes. So asking them specific questions, but also really paying attention to what they key into, and then kind of run with that.
And that's why when it comes to like your experience this summer, what was most surprising maybe about the engagement of your scholars?
It was surprising how excited the scholars were when we actually used the materials for our experiments within the virtual classroom, and how excited and how engaged they were on picking up the routine of how that virtual session went. They after the first and second session, they automatically knew I was going to do a scavenger hunt. So they were ready. And they knew they were going to pull stuff out of their JSA bag, and they were going to pull their materials out, and they were excited about the engagement. Another thing, excited about the activities. Another thing that surprised me was how excited they were about the extended activities after the session. So when I would give them the assignment of like record your density column and explain it, they were really excited about recording that, and parents were just as excited about uploading that content to our GroupMe. So that was the best thing, how excited they were, taking pictures with their plants and describing the growth of that plant. That was the most surprising to me about the excitement of the scholars of even doing that extension outside virtual session.
And I would like to go one step further. I rarely see, I'll say STEM activities, scholastic activities, academic events where parents are as engaged in the curriculum and the learning as I do when it comes to the Junior STEM Academy and Senior STEM Academy. So I often, when people ask about JSA or SSA, I tell them what we try to do is build a culture and not a camp. But I only see parents in the summertime, right? So I get this brief window. And so the same parents that I see, showing up to JSA or SSA may not have been to a parent-teacher conference all year. Who knows? But how do you all, since you get both, sides of that, Is that level of parent engagement different than maybe in the fall? And if so, why do you think that is?
It would be the culture we've set within JSA, but I now have a different experience at Forest Heights where we actually do the same level, try to do the same level of engagement with parents of building that relationship. So, but we have with JSA parents and with SSA parents, this is not like a 1-year relationship. These are 2 or 3-year rental relationships that we've had. And so the engagement of those parents and knowing what type of the expectation of the curriculum that we were going to have, it just makes it a lot more exciting for both parents and as an instructor and scholars, I believe.
I just think it's really neat when parents are showing their students just how important education is. And this was one of those just outwardly visible signs where students got to see from their parents that this was important. It's important for you to learn. It's important for you to explore. It's important for you to connect with teachers and with other students over the summer on your break when everybody wants to be just sitting at home and playing video games. And so that role model is essential for having an awesome educational program. So those are the type of parents that we love as teachers, because we know that that is your priority, is to make sure that your student is learning, and that is the best gift that you can give.
Thank you. Well, first, again, let me just say thank you for the amazing STEM camp that you all put on this summer. I am asking our listeners, if you have not yet heard about the Junior STEM Academy or the Senior STEM Academy, one, you are missing out, and two, you should check out our YouTube page. Go to our YouTube channel if you want to see fun STEM in action, if you want to see youth engaged in science projects and learning about, oh my goodness, the different phases of mitosis. Was that last year? And all of the other things that I don't even think I learned until my freshman year of college. Check out our YouTube page, that is Junior STEM Academy, and you will see all of our fun videos. We are going to be back with more COVID chats and facts with our fun LRSD certified teachers and educators after this break, and we will see you momentarily. Greetings and welcome back to COVID Chats and Facts. We thank you so much for joining us today. If you missed the first half of this conversation, then you have missed a lot of fun. We have with us the amazing Katina White, who is the 2017 Sherwood Educator of the Year and the 2020 Forest Heights STEM Academy Teacher of the Year, and the amazing Miss Whitney Bordelon, who is the 2018 Forest Heights STEM Academy Teacher of the Year. So I am the only one here that is not a Teacher of the Year, but I get to hang out with them, so that's okay. So if you missed the first half of this conversation, we are talking about ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, and going back to school in the middle of a pandemic. So kind of switching lanes, we focused on the parents, we focused on the students. Now let's focus on you all. What are some of your fears or your concerns about this fall and going back to school, whether it is physically going back or, even the online platforms that you'll be using? How are you feeling about the fall?
I think fear. I think it's honest just to say that I'm afraid of going back to school for the health reasons, the obvious health reasons. I don't want to get sick. I don't want anybody in my family to get sick. I have a 75-year-old mother who we have been kind of bubble grouped with, so we see her, but I wouldn't want to go and visit her if I was exposed to all the students. So we'd probably have to cut off that contact. She's very close to us, so an entire school year without spending any time with my mom, that would be really difficult for us. I also don't want any of my students to get sick. I think that's something that would be really hard to deal with, a student getting sick with COVID even just testing positive, if they were asymptomatic, I would feel bad. I would feel responsible if that happened in my classroom. And I just think that's a big weight to carry. I also think about all of the physical preparations we're going to have to do, the actual cleanliness of our own, person, as well as our classroom. There's just little things you don't think about. We have some nurse and doctor friends who have been kind of advising us about what things we need to do. And one thing that just kind of struck me was my glasses. I mean, I have to wear my glasses to see, but I'm going to actually have to wash them after I leave the school every day. And that's just something that's going to have to be in my new routine, something that I just hadn't thought about before. So we're going to have to become a new normal in order to keep everybody safe. So the first answer for me, I think, is I'm a little fearful, apprehensive of my own health and safety. But I have two boys. I have a boy who's a senior at Parkview, and one who will be a 7th grader at Forsyth STEM Academy. And I'm very nervous for them too, because, just like everybody else, I want them to have a great quality education that those schools offer, but I want them to be healthy. So it's a difficult situation to be in. So, I mean, I know exactly where a lot of parents are coming from.
I want to thank you for your transparency and sharing that. Ms. White?
Mine is the same thing. I have a little anxiety about the whole situation. And then I'm a single parent. So coming from my perspective is I'm the sole custodial parent. So if something happens to me, what happens to my daughter? So if I'm sick, if I get anything, and I have to go in the hospital, who takes care of my daughter? So it's those things. And even though, like Ms. Borland said, the procedures that have to be in place. I purchased scrubs the other day just for me. So it would be easier for me to take that off and put those in hot water, easier than it would be for me to have like professional clothes and have to put that and wash that or dry clean that all the time. It's just usually at the beginning of the year, I'm thinking about my classroom procedures, my classroom lessons. This year, I'm thinking about
Your
classroom procedures, my personal safety procedures I have to do for that. And in addition to other stuff. So it's that.
Are you?
Yeah. So it's just a combination of things, and it can get overwhelming at times. But I do have good resources and, support with colleagues that kind of help each other out a little bit with that. But yeah, high anxiety, most definitely.
Thank you for sharing. And this is kind of two questions in one. One, I guess I was thinking about myself. I was a principal's kid growing up. And if my dad was at school, I was at school. And so when I'm thinking about just as a parent right now, I'm like, I'm not going to let my child go this 9 weeks. Maybe we'll try it again next 9 weeks. But as educators, are most of the teachers and administrators that are their kids physically going because they have to be there this fall?
Mine is, she's coming. She's going to school. She's going to be in person. I mean, I don't really have a choice. Mm-hmm. I have teacher friends that their kids have to go because, both their parents are educators.
Right.
So they have to go in person and not do virtual. So.
Yeah, both of my children are going to do in person if that is an option. And one, because, my youngest son will be at the same school as me. So even if it's all virtual and we do still go to school to teach from our classrooms, I'm assuming that, he's going to have to come with me anyway, because, I can't leave him at home all by himself all day long. My high school student is a little bit more independent, but my younger student, he really needs some help and some supervision too. So I just don't know.
And I think that's tough for me, having my oldest and my youngest are vastly different. And whereas I know that my youngest would most likely benefit more from the in-person classroom setting, it is still that same fear that you're talking about because all the children are walking around like typhoid Mary. And that is, concerning, them being asymptomatic as often as they are and things like that. So knowing, I mean, my mother, her immune system is compromised. She was a cancer survivor and things like that. So those things are very concerning to me. And then I kid you not, I had not even thought about, because my sons are 14 and 17. Until we were having a discussion, Whitney, and you mentioned kids taking off their mask and sharing their mask with each other. And now I can't get the image out of my head, but kids do that, right? They share lollipops and pickles and chips. And of course, if you have a pretty mask, I'm going to say, oh, let me put your mask on. And I now just, how do you make kindergartners social distance?
And it's really not even about it's not even just kindergarten, it's like middle schoolers. Developmentally, they are clowns.
Yes,
and if they, we're subject to get like, hey, you have corona? Let me cough on you. Let me cough on me so I can get, so I don't have to go to school.
I can be out of school.
It's like, so I can be out of school because I'm not gonna show any. It's things that play a big part, especially in middle school. That I'm laughing, but this is real life. This is how they act, and so it's those things that kind of worry me as well.
Well, and socially too. I mean, think about. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No. Think about the students. If they're COVID positive, does that have some sort of social stigma? Because I mean, some middle schoolers are mean, and so and so has COVID, and now they're dirty, and now we don't want to be near them, even if they come back and they're not positive anymore, or they're well or whatever. They're still going to have that. Oh, I remember when you were positive, and I mean, just don't want to have to deal with having to lift those students up too.
How can parents and allies of educators best support you this fall? What can we do? I mean, in previous years, it seemed like, buying tissue and antibacterial wipes. This is a new normal. So how can we best support you this fall in particular?
For me, it would be contacting the superintendent and for me and governor as often as possible as parents. As teachers, we can say and it looks like we're complaining about the safety of our lives and our students' lives. But once parents start speaking up, we need, I don't know if parents can donate as much hand sanitizer as we're gonna need for the year, our wipes for the year, our Lysol for the year. Like I don't know if that we're gonna have that much parental support. And we get at our school, we do have a good parental support and backup, but it's gonna have to take more than that. So that means we're probably gonna be contacting the superintendent about PPE supplies, materials for our classrooms. If we, just constantly badgering them, that we talk to the governor, talk to the commissioner, it's gonna have to be parents' voices and not just teacher voices. That's gonna have to speak out against that.
So whatever pathway this education looks like this year, if it's virtual, if it's in person, if you're homeschooling your child and you're pulling yourself away from the district because that's what's best for your child, that's great. But you need to be a cheerleader for the educational process. So if the teachers are asking you to, your child to go into the kitchen and get some supplies to make a density column, yes, say, oh, that's great. I can help you. Here's the molasses. So if you can make it seem like it's fun and important and worth the time, then your student is going to learn from that. If you're complaining about it the entire time and saying, I don't want to do this, your child's going to take that cue and they're going to also complain about it. And it's already difficult enough to teach students, period, but to add on the added negative feelings, it's, you have to overcome that before you can even begin to learn. So be a cheerleader. You don't have to share all of your thoughts and ideas about the lesson with your child.
So I just want to make sure I'm hearing these things correctly. One, as a parent, you guys advise that I manage my expectations for this fall, that we're in a new normal, and it's a new normal for my parents, my administrators, my students, and nobody's going to get it all right. And that's okay. Two, it's okay that my child may or may not have picked up a book since he was physically in school earlier this year, because you all are specialists and are able to assist my child with getting to where he needs to be because his mother was slacking. Two. Three, it is amplifying your voice and being attuned or aware to what you all are saying as far as educators, because you know what is best suited for those environments and in your classrooms, and just however possible to amplify those voices. If that is a Facebook post, if that is contacting the governor, if that's contacting the superintendent, then take the time to do that. There is not enough antibacterial for us to just kind of send it constantly, but outlook and how, and I guess the verbiage that we express to our children will also be one of the, I guess, ways that we assist in culture this fall, just making sure that we share our feelings behind closed doors and not in front of the children about any frustrations going on. And also maybe even not having those frustrations ahead of time, just extending the grace that will be necessary, not only for the students, but the parents as well, and cultivating relationships with educators. I feel like we could write a book. So I have all of our points correct at this point. How are you feeling as far as your confidence level in the policies and procedures that are being laid out for you by LRSD leadership right now? I know that I feel like I've seen lots of commentary on social media as far as if you should report if you're positive or if you can report. And, working in healthcare, HIPAA is a very real thing, but it's also your information to divulge or not. So how are you feeling as far as the policies and procedures being in place to protect you this fall?
I would like to say that I am very confident in my school's administration. I'm very confident that they will take care of me and they will take care of the students, including my own child. So I'm very confident in their ability to do what's right, to take care of our family of teachers, students at Forest Heights.
I just want to piggyback and say that I'm confident in your administrator and your school as well. So can I not send my son back for just one more year during this situation so he can, because I'm confident, very confident in the leadership of Forest Heights STEM Academy.
Right.
What about you,
So,
Ms.?
I would say that, we're very confident in our administration knows us. They know our fears. They're going to communicate with us and really take what we have to say and listen to it and make policies based on that.
Thank you. Ms. White?
I piggyback off Ms. Borgman. It's the exact same thing. I'm confident in my building level administrators and my colleagues. We have that relationship with our administrators and with each other that we can help each other make it through. So we each have the ability to support each other, whether it's through the new LMS system. I'm confident in the ability of our building level administrators.
And so just in case anyone missed the 7 times that they said the word building level administrators, they are confident in the leadership of Amy Cooper and other Forest Heights STEM Academy leadership. Recently, there's been conversation around parents forming what they're calling pods. My understanding thus far is that parents are grouping up, maybe not sending their kids back to, the physical school for the school year, and even maybe hiring a certified teacher to teach a small cohort of children. So my question to you all is, we already talked about the inequities in education in our LRSD. So I'm sure that there are some pros and some cons to, the pods being formed, and I would love to get your opinions and ideas on those pods.
Well, I will say that I am part of a group. It's Southwest Little Rock Pod, and it's not so them paying a teacher to come in. It's more so parents will rotate. So you get a group of 5 kids. They're not on enrolling in out of Little Rock School District, but they will still do the online platform. It's just that they'll be at one house and a parent is there to monitor them. And then the parents will rotate each day. So it'll be so much on one parent. Those are the ideas. And then they're trying to figure out how to get electronic devices to students, kids who are parents who can't afford those electronic devices, and how to get those kids accessible to that, and even talking about Wi-Fi. So it's more so not necessarily hiring tutors or withdrawing them out of the school district. It's more so, how can we best keep kids home for them to do virtual online, and it's not so much it's not a lot of heavy lifting for a parent, and it's just the assistance. So it would be like if I was a single parent, I'm a single parent, and if I'm having to go to work. If my daughter, I don't want her to go in person. I want her to go and be with these 5 kids, and we will rotate each day to monitor that child.
As someone who was a single mom for 11 years, I absolutely love when moms get together and group up and have each other's back. There is nothing like a group of moms coming together. We could rule the whole world. We could rule the entire world in mom pods.
Listen, it reminds me back when I had the flu when I was like in 5th grade. But not only did I get the flu, my cousins got the flu, and then 2 more cousins had the flu. So we were all it was like 6 or 7 of us that caught the flu. And our parents still had to go to work. So they put us all in one house. They took us, and you had my mom there one day, and then my aunt came the next day, and then my aunt came the next day. And they weren't necessarily single. My mom was a single mom, and they were, married. It was a mixture. But it helped them not having to use all their PTO or their, time when they were able to just monitor. I still remember that the ice bath too, because my temperature they put me in the bathtub. But yeah, that's neither there. But it just reminds me of that type of. So that's the Southwest Little Rock pod. So it's not necessarily, and if we had pods like that within various communities, I think that would work.
And that's a great way for the parents not to burn out.
Mm-hmm.
If
I'm burnt out, and I'm already burnt out. I am already I'm burnt out for the fall.
But that would be a great way to support each other, and the exposure would be minimized because you're only around those 5 students. So I think that would be a great opportunity. I would hate to pull a really good teacher from the district to just tutor a handful of students. So I'm not sure that the pod idea would be something that I think would be good, because then the entire district misses out on that teacher.
I mean, I was looking at it only from the access to education, but you're right. If someone pulled a teacher like you or Katina from the district, teachers that I know are intentional and, do things culturally responsive for those students to be able to best learn and see themselves represented in curriculum and things like that. Yeah, I do think that would be sad, that you would not be in the district. And so only that small cohort of children would get to experience how awesome you are. We are coming to a close of our conversation, is there anything that you would like to say, any advice to not just any, parents, your students, LRSD leadership as a whole, the State Board of Education? Is there any message that you would like to send while you currently have this platform today?
Mine would be the expectations and knowing that this is not a normal year. It's not a normal year. It's not going to be a normal year. Educators, we're going to try to make it as close as possible to a normal year, but that being realistic about what this year is going to be about. If we're looking for social emotional, that's going to look different than what it's looked like in the past. So it's going to be a lot of monitoring and adjusting for everybody, for parents. Playtime, recess may look totally different this year than it did last year. Science experiments may look different this year than they did last year. So changing the expectation of what you remember school looking like to what it has to look like now. It's just almost the same of prior to 9/11, how airports looked and how they look now.
And how
And
in the
so,
beginning, you weren't used to that 3 hour addition to going into the airport. But now
right.
it's down to an hour and a half. But we got used to that. I guess is kind of what I'm saying. So
You didn't have to go into the airport and take your shoes off and walk through a monitor prior to 9/11. And then after 9/11, that normalcy, that totally shifted and changed. And so it's, like I said, providing grace, monitoring, adjusting, and then we'll get used to that, the normalcy of what it looks like this year. Just being realistic of what this year and what school looks like and being able to monitor and adjust is going to help all.
And I would just like to say, you as parents know what is best for your child. So do what is best for your child. You know your child way better than any teacher will, and you need to make the decision that's best for your child in this time. Um, I think something that Ms. White said that I think is really important for us to know is that it's going to be way different. So if your whole reason for sending your child to school is socialization, they're not going to get it like you think they're going to. We are going to have them isolated. Yes, they will have, be near other students, but it's not going to be the same. We're not going to have the collaborative groups. They're going to be doing their work pretty much like the virtual students would be at home, but they're going to be sitting at a desk in a classroom. So if the whole reason that you want your child to go to school is for that social aspect, just be aware that it's not what you think it's going to be. It's not what the student thinks it's going to be. So you're going to have to manage that disappointment. Some of the new normals, the students are going to be like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. So think about that ahead of time so that you can handle those conversations.
thank you. And I don't know if you will hear it all school year, but from my heart to yours, thank you for all that you do for our youth. Thank you for all that you have done for my youth. Thank you for all that you have done for the youth that have come through the UAMS Division for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. As the daughter of an educator, y'all know I talk about it all the time. I have a special place in my heart, but not just for educators, but for people who love to educate. I absolutely love the passion and the way your faces light up when y'all are creating curriculum. I love trying to figure out who's going to be more excited about the experiment that you guys are doing, the students or you all. It definitely at this point is you all. But I just want to say thank you. We are in a new normal. We are in a new space. And for me, as a diversity specialist, that's exciting because the old way wasn't working for everyone. And so if the new way means that we have a chance to forge a whole new cultural landscape as far as education is concerned, we've complained about antiquated systems and school systems and pedagogy forever. And now we have the opportunity to turn it on its head. And so I do think that outlook this fall will be most important, not just for the students, but for parents, teachers, and everyone, because it's the same fight that we were fighting in March. It just looks a little different and the conversation has changed, but it's still going to take all of us. So please know that I will happily assist wherever necessary, as long as it doesn't mean coming to the school. I will be wherever you need me to be. Ms. Borderline, Ms. White, thank you so much for being here with us today. We appreciate your wisdom, your vulnerability, the laughs that you have provided us, even the tips and tools in researching and making sure that we can at least know what the platforms are for this fall, making sure that we remember to extend a little grace. And again, from our heart to yours, we appreciate you. We thank you. To our listeners, we hope that you will join us again next Friday, same bat time, same bat channel for our COVID chats and facts. I will, of course, be your host, Amber Nicole, your favorite diversity specialist, and we will see you same time next week.